Welcome to our second orientation lecture. We are ready to go forward and cover the second half, I hope, of the material that we'll be covering. So let's go back to our PowerPoint. You'll see the PowerPoint is this item right here. Of course, this is the first lecture. When you're actually watching this, there will be a second lecture, which is what you're listening to right now, that will be posted between these two. But this one is going to be our, we're going to continue on with the PowerPoint that we were talking about before. We were talking about announcements, but there's also something I have called instructor's pointers. Let me show you where you find that. If you'll scroll, actually I'm calling it questions now. I will edit that and include instructor's pointers. So I will have both names when you actually come into the course. This is a place for you to post questions that you have that you don't mind other people seeing. And it's also a place for me to post general information. Let's say lots of people are having a question about a contract formation. It doesn't make sense for me to send out 15 different emails. I'll just go ahead and post the substance of the question without, of course, revealing who asked the question. And so everybody can see that question, even those students who didn't think to ask me the question. So this is a very handy place to visit from time to time to see what might be going on in the course that might be of concern to you. Here is the breakdown of the grades. We have the orientation quiz. It's just a little bit, but it would be silly to miss out on those few points. The discussion board, which is what is the class participation component, is worth 5%. You need to participate in 10 discussion boards in order to maximize your points here. Let's say that you participate in only 8. Well, then I will take your 8 discussion board grades and add 2 zeros to that to get us to the 10, and then use that average to be your grade for your discussion board participation. If you choose to participate in, instead of 10, if you choose to participate in 12, then I'll take your 10 highest grades. Let's say you missed a couple points one time because your answers weren't very in-depth, or you didn't include a word count, or you waited too late to post. No worries, you'll just participate in another board and I will drop your lower grade. Of course, if you choose to accept your lower grade as one of the grades that counts, that's also fine, and I will just use the 10 grades that we have. So you're welcome to participate in all the boards, but you're also going to recognize that if, let's say, you happen to have 5 perfects on your first 10 boards, there's really no academic reason to participate in the 11th unless you just find it so much fun. So keep that in mind. This is it's time to be a little bit strategic. Again, as I said before, you're an adult, you've got a scarce resource, your time, and so you're looking for how can I get the most bang from my buck in terms of learning and also in terms of grades. And of course, it would be probably not the best plan to participate in more than 10 discussion boards if you did well on the first 10. But if you didn't do so well on one or more, then this would be an opportunity to get some points. So keep that in mind as you are considering your discussion board participation. I'm not going to remind you again and again that you only need to do 10. But you know that you only need to do 10 because I'm telling you here, and you'll remember as you go forward in the class. Let me go ahead and make this big. Okay, so remember 10. We'll talk about Connect assignments in just a couple minutes. The same applies to chapter quizzes. You can complete, I will take your highest 10 grades. If you do 8, let's say you get 15s on each. So that will be 8 times 15, which is 120. And then I will divide that by 10, and so that will mean your average grade is a 12 because you will essentially have gotten zeros on the 2 missing quizzes, and I will use that grade. It's pretty rare that people get 15 out of 15 on the quizzes on a regular basis. You might get that occasionally, but most people don't get 100% on those. And so this can be, again, a time to be strategic. You might have done 10, you might go ahead and choose to do 11 or 12. It probably doesn't make sense to randomly guess for the 11th or 12th because you're not going to do better randomly guessing. But if you actually have a good grasp of the material, then that would make sense, and you have a couple low grades to go ahead and do the 11th and 12th to replace your low grade. So again, think strategic. You want to have at least 10. If you do more than 10, you want to be thinking about what grades you're going to replace. Then there are reading activities. We'll talk more about this going forward. They're called Learn Smart. What you do is you read a little bit of the book and then you answer questions on it. This can be a very positive thing, or it can be a real drag. It depends upon how you approach it. The good news front is that this is a guaranteed 15 out of 15. You can't get less than 100% because if you miss a question, the question will come up again. And you know it's not A because you just tried A and A was wrong, so now you're going to try B. Oh, wait a second, B's wrong. So next time it comes up, you'll know not to do A or B, and so you try D. Well, D is correct, and so you go forward. So there's no reason to get less than 100 on the Connect, assuming that you don't run out of time or don't lose interest or whatever. So that's the good news, or that's one of the pieces of good news. The other piece of good news is that Learn Smart was designed, it's really why I use the Connect program, and that is that it is designed to help you learn the material. Study after study indicates that we learn better if we are testing ourselves as we're getting the material. The process of reading is relatively passive, where our eyes are seeing information that's going into our brains, but is it sticking? Probably not. The way that we get it to stick is by testing ourselves. And one way to test yourself is with true, false questions or multiple choice. And so if you are asked a question and you have to find the right answer, you're much more likely to remember that topic when you're taking a test or when you're in life. And so it is a way to move that information from short-term memory to long-term memory. It's also a way to maximize your study time. Spending 10 minutes doing some type of quiz-like activity is going to render you much better results than 10 minutes of watching a lecture or 10 minutes of reading a textbook. Those are important things you need to do in the course, but that's not where you're going to get the most bang from your buck. And Learn Smart is probably your most bang for the buck category. Now I will tell you, those are the pluses with it. The less positive is that Learn Smart can take a while. I've programmed it so that in most, that on average, the assignments take about, the Learn Smart activities take about 30 minutes if you genuinely do them. You're not just randomly guessing. You can, that's kind of the projected time. Some are quicker, some take longer, but that's kind of the average. As you're thinking strategically, again, you could think strategically and say, well, I'm going to do them all because they're a very good way of learning the material. And students tell me that all the time. They say, you know what, when I do Learn Smart, it really does help me. But they say it took a lot of time. And so that's kind of a judgment call for you to make. If you're going for the A, you probably want to do all the Learn Smarts. If you're going for the B or the C, maybe you won't do them all. I'm going to take your 10 highest grades. And so whether you do the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, or 15th, that's for your own decision to make with respect to that. So that's the Learn Smart component. This is usually going to be the first thing you do when you get a module. You'll do this, and then you'll go on. You'll do the Learn Smart activity, then you'll do the assignments, and then you'll do the chapter quiz. At least that's the plan. The Learn Smart is the way to learn the material. The assignments is the way to apply what you've already learned, and then the quizzes is the way to cement that knowledge. These aren't designed just to demonstrate knowledge, but to help you move information from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. We'll talk more about, well, actually, let's do it now. So that's the information about the Learn Smart activity. It's that quizzing system. Let me just show you an example so you can see what I'm talking about, because sometimes it's a little hard. So I'm just going to go into a chapter. We'll go into chapter 3. You'll see this is what the module looks like. So first of all, it looks like this. It's closed. I open it up, and you can see the first thing is it's called Textbook Learn Smart Activity. This is it. I'm going to click on the Learn Smart Activity. Mine's going to look a little, oh, wait a second. Mine's going to look a little different. So I'm actually going to go through it a different way. Mine doesn't show up the way that yours does just because I'm the instructor. So I'm going to go through it in a different way. Did it time out on me? Okay. Here we go. Sorry about this. You don't have to worry about this. This is just stuff that the instructor has to do sometimes. So what I'm doing right here is not stuff you need to even worry about. This is all stuff kind of behind the scenes. Okay, so I'm previewing. This gives you a kind of a flavor of what it will look like when you are a student. You are going to have a paper textbook, and many students like a paper textbook. You can write on it, you can carry it around with you, you can share it with somebody else. There's lots of things that can happen with that. But you can do the whole course online if you want to. Okay, so you can see the first thing that happens is you have this assistant here. You haven't read anything yet. If you want to, you can start to practice, see how well you know the topics already. So I can go through and start answering the Learn Smart questions, or you can see there's 102 in this chapter. You may say, oh, that seems like a lot, but keep in mind, you're reading the chapter as you answer the question. So you read a little bit, a couple paragraphs, then you answer the question. So they flow very naturally from it. So the United States is the first, is the final appellate court in the federal court system. I'm pretty sure that's the Supreme Court. My guess is you know that too. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to say, how well do I think? Am I randomly guessing? Well, I'd say no idea. If I'm pretty uncertain, I'd say unsure. If I'm pretty clear, but not 100%, I'm going to say think so. But I happen to know this is right. And yep, I'm right. I've answered this question. I'm never going to see this again because I got that. So now going forward, I'm just going to have 101. You can see. It's going to ask me another question. State court systems, in most cases, begin in a trial court of, I happen to know the answer because I teach the course, but I'm going to guess and say intermediate. And I have no idea. So I'm intentionally getting this one wrong, obviously. Oh, nope. The correct answer is general. Now, if I were doing this, I would jot this down. In state courts, most courts begin in a court of general jurisdiction. So that's going into my notes that I'm taking as I read the chapter. You have your own system, I'm sure, of note-taking as you read. Whatever works for you is obviously the way you ought to go, but this is something that obviously should go into your notes, because I'm going to get this question again. I don't know when, but somewhere in the Learn Smart process, this question will pop up, and now I know the answer. So I'm going to click OK. And so this goes forward, and again, if I want to read about this, let's see here. A blank arbitration clause is a provision of the contract that mandates that all disputes arising under the contract must be settled by arbitration. I don't know about that. Let me read about it. Sounds like a fascinating topic. Wait a second. I have it right here. It's in bold. I get the answer. It's that easy. Now I can go back to my question. I know what it is. Binding arbitration. I know it for sure. Yep, I got it right. I'm never going to see that question. You see I'm at 101 here. Now I'm down to 100. So you can see how it goes forward. That's the process of doing the book. Now if I want to, I can go and just read the textbook. And you can see as I read it, it's going to gray out stuff as I cover it here. And it's going to highlight what the most important parts are. It's going to do that work for me. But I still need to be an active participant in this. And you can see here this information is in black, and then it gets gray. They're saying we haven't gotten to this material yet. We're focusing on this material up here. By the way, these terms in the margins here, this is the important part of the textbook, because most, maybe most is exact, probably most is a fair characterization. Most of this course is like a vocabulary course. You need to know these words. You might even, this course, let me put it this way, this course is more like a French or a Spanish course than a calculus course. There's very little in this course that is hard. Just like, there's 3- and 4-year-old kids in France running around speaking French, They don't have a college or high school diploma. They just speak it. And so they know what the word for table is. They know what the word for book is. They know all these words. It's not hard. But guess what? If you grew up in the United States, you don't know it's table. You don't know it's livre. You just know it's book and it's table, right? So you have to learn this stuff. But it's not. It's a lot of stuff, but it's not hard stuff. And that's what this course is. It's not like calculus, which is inherently hard, but doesn't probably have a ton of vocabulary. This stuff is, you got to get those ideas in your brain. You're not going to come to this course knowing these words. Some of them you will, but most of them you won't know. So you're just going to have to spend the time. You might be, the most brilliant person who's ever taken a business law course. And yet, if you don't know these terms, sometimes you're going to be able to guess them because of context clues, but you just have to spend the time learning it. And it is a situation where you have to just put in the hours to get to the finish line. And so start early learning these words. Study after study indicates that our brains are not designed to learn lots of vocabulary words in a short period of time. If you have 100 vocabulary words to learn, you can spend 24 hours sitting there staring at the words, and you are not going to learn them all. But if you take those same 24 hours and spread them out over 24 days and spend an hour a day, you will have 100 words memorized, probably a lot more than 100 words memorized. So one of the keys to memorizing terms, to moving things from short-term memory to long-term memory, is the sleeps. The period of times where you are asleep. It helps your brain spends that time organizing and moving that information from short-term to long-term memory. You need to have lots of sleeps to get that stuff from short-term to long-term memory. And there's no way to do it other than doing it. So budget time from the very beginning. Say, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes a day learning these cards, using flashcards, whatever the tool is I'm going to learn. We'll talk more about tools in a little bit. Be diligent, be consistent with it. You'll do great in the course. You wait until 2 or 3 days before the test and you haven't started committing these words to memory, you're maybe going to get a C if you're lucky, if you're a pretty good guesser. That is not the way to be successful in this course. So these terms are key. If you don't have time to read everything and you just learn these vocabulary terms, you're going to pass the course. If you don't learn these terms, you're just kind of reading it, going along, read, but you're not really moving these terms to long-term memory, it's not going to be a pleasant semester for you. Okay, so let's go back. So that's the Learn Smart activity. Again, you can get, there's really no reason not to get all 15 of these points other than just the fact that it takes time. Let's talk about the assignments. Here I have a little table I want to show you. Here, this is posted, by the way, or this first table is posted, by the way. Let me blow it up a little bit. And this shows all of the modules and all of the assignments. You can see each one of the modules, you can get 15 points on assignments. Sometimes it's just one assignment. So for module 1, there is a single assignment and it's worth 15 points. Let me show you that in our course. I'm going to go down to module 1. And you can see here's that Learn Smart activity that we're starting with. Let's scroll down to our last section, which is discussion board assignments and quiz. By the way, this last section is where you earn points in the course. And you can see we have Chapter 01, Interactive 1, The Legal Philosophy of Future Judges Case Analysis. You can see it says 15 points. Well, since each assignment module is worth 15 points, and this one assignment is worth 15 points, you automatically know there's a single assignment in this particular module. I mean, that's nice, that's easy. I wish they were all that way, but unfortunately they're not. But we could go down to Chapter 7, you can see, gosh, there's a total of 6 assignments in this module. One assignment is worth just 1 point, one is worth 4, 2, 2, 4, 2. You add all these numbers up, it gets you to 15. Let's just look at that module so we can see what one of those modules looks like. By the way, I have these listed in numeric order, but this is not the order in which we cover them in the course. So I just listed them in this order for whatever reason. So we do this around mid. Yeah, it should be right here. Okay, so here we have, so this is our Module 8, Chapter 7 torts. We go to this last section, which again is discussion board, assignments, and quiz. And you can see we start from here. This is our first assignment. It's worth just 1 point, so you immediately know, gosh, I'm going to have more assignments to do. Next one's worth 4, so we have 5. We're a third of the way through the assignments. We do this next one, 2 points. There's 7, okay, almost halfway. 2 more points, we're at 9, more than halfway. 4 more points, we're at 13, almost done. Last assignment, 2 points, 15, we're done. And again, you can refer to this to show you all the things you have to do. I mean, they're all grouped together. You know, you just start at the top and go to the bottom, so you don't have to count it up. But if you, especially for something like this, it might be possible to forget one. This helps you get to that finish line. You can use this chart, print it up, or just online, enter the information from your grades so you can see how you're doing on the assignments. I have an example about how a student might have done on assignments. Here it is, and I've added grades, you know, kind of randomly to these assignments. You can see, so here the 13 just transfers right over here to the 13. But in this one, assignment 2, we had to add the 1 and the 4 to get 5. This student didn't do so well here. Number 7, we had to add the 1, the 4, the 2, the 1, the 3, and the 2 to get to 13. So once we have all the grades, then we need to look for the best 10, because remember, we're only looking at the 10 highest assignment grades for a complete module. I can look at this, and I'm going to look for some 15s because we know this is going to be. So I'm going to put this in, oops, let me put this in yellow. Let's see if I have any 14s. Doesn't look like, oh, I do have a 14. Let's look for 13s. Here's a 13. Here's a 13, 13, 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's another 13. 7. I need to come up with 3 more, so we have a 12. That's 8. 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We need 1 more. I don't have any 11s, but I'll just pick a 10 here. Doesn't matter which 10 I pick, of course. 7's lower, 5's lower, 7's lower, 8's lower, 10, 10, 6. So I have the best. So I'm going to transfer these over here. So we have 13, 12, 12, 13, 13, 13, 10, 14, 15, and 13. So you'd add these up and you'd come up with your total. I'm not going to do the math. We'll pretend that this adds up to 100. So this is 100 out of 10. So I'm going to need to divide this by 10 to come up with my average. 100 divided by 10. So that means that I have 100 divided by 10 is, of course, 10. So my average grade is 10 out of 15. Now you can see it's going to be higher than this because I only have 110. All my other grades are higher than that. But this is just an example. I did not actually do the math. Probably the actual number might be, we'll say it's 21. Let's just do that. So that would average out to be something like that. It's probably even higher than that, but that gives you a ballpark number of what it's going to be. This tells you where my average is. Now you can see I didn't really need to do these assignments. They didn't help me do my grade. But you don't know going in necessarily what you're going to do well on. Maybe you thought you were really acing module number 3 and you were surprised to find out you didn't do so well. Or maybe you thought, well, you know what, even though I'm not going to maybe do my best, it's going to help me learn the material to go ahead and do the assignments. And the reason that I show this example is that I don't want you to think that this counts as an assignment, this counts as an assignment, this counts as an assignment, and this counts as an assignment. No, this does count an assignment because this covers the whole module, and this counts as an assignment. But you have to look at this whole area to come up with an assignment. So these don't count as individual assignments. Together, they count as one. So you need to get a total count of 15 points. And you can't mix and match. You can't say, well, I did super well on this, and I did super well on this. So I want to take this and combine them. No, I'm going to look at 9 as a unit, and that's 13. I'm going to look at 6 as a unit, and 7. If I could mix and match, yeah, I could get 14, but I'm not. But that's not how I'm going to grade it. So don't think of it that way. That's not going to be a helpful way for you to look at it. Here's another example. These actually have the same numbers, but in this case, the student didn't do certain assignments. Again, perfectly understandable. That's a good strategic decision to make. When time is scarce and only the top 10 grades count, then in many cases, you're not going to do all 10. I mean, yeah, you're not going to do more than 10, or maybe you're going to do 11 or something. You can see here, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I did 9 in this case. So we can see that my top 10 are going to be 12, 12, 13, 13, 8, 14, 15, 10, 6, and then now I need to pick one that's a 0. Obviously that 0 is not going to help my grade too much, but you know, it's life, things happen. I would total this up. Maybe this works out to be 85. So then down here I'm going to take 85 divided by 10, and that will give me an overall grade of 8.5. And that would be the grade that I would use in calculating my grade. You don't need to know how to calculate your grade. It's my job to calculate grade. It's not your job to calculate your grade. But it can be a very useful way to consider your time because, again, you're probably not going to have time to do all of the opportunities that I'm offering you for enrichment. I mean, in a perfect world you would, but we don't live in that perfect world, and so you have to pick and choose. Knowing how those choices are going to impact your grade is really powerful information so that you make the best choices. Honestly, it doesn't make sense to spend 2 hours participating in a single discussion board. It's just not worth that much. But preparing for the assignments, that's something that is more meaningful. Each one of the assignments is 3 times more valuable than a single discussion board. So it makes sense you spend 3 times as much time. Certainly on your first 10. After that, it becomes less important to do that. Let me give you a word of caution about Canvas here. Go up here. Canvas will list your grades. Let me just click on this grade link right here. Right now, I do not have Canvas calculating grades. Sometimes I do let Canvas calculate, sometimes I don't. The reason that I don't is that Canvas does not calculate grades completely accurately for this class. It's not that it has a bug in it, that it can't do the math. The reason that I don't let it do the activity is that I have lots of quirks about how I do grading. For example, I drop so many grades. I also sometimes offer extra credit. And there are other things that I sometimes do over the course of a semester that Canvas really can't account for. And so if I let Canvas calculate grades, it's not going to give you your precise grade. That can be frustrating for students. There are times where Canvas can be off a letter grade, even perhaps 2 letter grades, depending upon the particular semester. So I might have a student, this has happened many times, where I've had a student who's clearly going to get an A, and yet Canvas is telling them they're getting a B. And so the student comes to me, well, what's going on? I thought I was doing so well. Well, you are doing well. But Canvas is seeing some of those zeros because you're not doing all the assignments because there's no reason to do them. But they're seeing those zeros and saying, oh, this person's not doing their work. So Canvas can make mistakes along those lines. If I have programmed Canvas to do your grades, take that information with a grain of salt. Recognize that you are in the best position to calculate your own grades, or just let me do it. If you see a grade, you take that with a grain of salt. Just always like to remind people about that. If you, as you're taking notes, please write this down, because you will forget about this until the week before finals, and then you'll frantically be sending me an email. And I'm going to say, hey, remember I covered that? You had that in your orientation lecture notes. And you'll be able to flip back to it and see it and be reassured. Okay, so let's go back to our PowerPoint. So the Learn Smart is designed to help you learn the material. The assignments are designed to help you apply the material. Now, the assignments are not timed. You can take as much time as you want. Occasionally, I'll have students who come to my office hours and we can do the assignments together. I'm happy to help with them. And we'll do quite well together. But I'm not going to sit down there and just give you the answers. We're going to work through it. We're going to talk through the things to consider. So it's not going to be necessarily the shortest amount of time. Unlike the Learn Smart activities, you can miss assignments. As I showed you in this sheet, you can see there are lots of grades below 15. And most students' grades look about like this. These are pretty typical grades. In fact, there might even be a little bit on the high end. So an 8 out of 15 is not an unusual grade for a student to have on an assignment, although certainly there are 15s out of 15s out there as well. So you can actually miss these questions. The Connect chapter quizzes are the third thing. This is your opportunity to demonstrate your knowledge. You will have 10 minutes to answer 15 questions. They're a combination of multiple choice and true-false. Honestly, students usually finish it in about 7 minutes, so it's really not a high-pressure timed test. The reason that I restrict the time is that this is not an open book test. You aren't supposed to look up the answers. You're supposed to have the answers already in your head. The time that you're looking up answers is when you're doing the Connect, Learn Smart activity and you're doing the assignments. If I gave unrestricted time for the quizzes, I know you wouldn't do it, but somebody else in the class might be slightly tempted to look through their notes. And so I am limiting the utility of that by restricting folks to 10 minutes. That doesn't mean that a sneaky person can't look up 1 or 2 answers, but they probably can't look up all 15 answers. Anyway, that's the intent. The actual questions are relatively short. I've typed them up, and usually the test is about a back and a front of, actually they always fit in on the back and the front of a sheet. So you won't have any difficulty reading through the tests in the 10 minutes and answering the questions. But you won't have much time to reflect slowly upon that particular question and that particular answer. Some students, though, even though there's plenty of time, they still find themselves stressed. It's the idea of having a time test, or they're worried about their internet connection maybe being a little funky and maybe it'll time out, or perhaps they have a learning difference. Maybe you have dyslexia, or you have some other learning difference that means that you would benefit from a little bit extra time. No worries, I've got you covered. You can have all the time that you want to take the chapter quizzes if you take it in the Preston Ridge Testing Center. Because in that environment, you won't have access to your notes or to the textbook. If you want to take an hour to take a quiz, more power to you. Because again, the only reason why I'd put the time limitation is to make it difficult for you to use outside resources. If you choose to take your test through the Preston Ridge Testing Center, obviously you can't take it twice. You can't take it online and in the testing center. So the way that I manage that is that I ask, or I require, that you contact me and we will schedule a time to talk, and I'll go over the protocols we use. The whole conversation takes less than 5 minutes. We can do it face-to-face, or we can do it by telephone or through the virtual office technique. So again, it can be a really short thing. I don't require this because I want to inconvenience you. We can do it at night sometime or during your lunch hour, whatever. It's not a big deal, but I always like to document that we've had this conversation so there can't be any confusion. My fear is that some student will take it at the testing center and somehow or another accidentally take it online, and then I have 2 grades. and that becomes an academic honesty issue. And then it's like, what grade do I use? And so I don't want us to be in that position. So by requiring this test, this brief conversation, hopefully we'll be able to avoid that. Also, I will drop off the tests to the testing center with your name on them. And so Bobby Smith, who's signed up for this, can take it, but Sally Green, who hasn't signed up, won't be able to take it at the testing center. Once you sign up to take the test through the testing center instead of online, I can't turn off the online feature for you. And so you'll still see those quizzes, but you shouldn't click on it because, again, that would cause you to take the test 2 ways, which is obviously not appropriate. Usually, I ask that you switch and do it all one way or all the other way. If you try the face-to-face testing in the testing center and for some reason that just doesn't work and you really are finding that difficult and you want to return to the old format, you can. But you need to be in one boat or the other. You can't just say, well, I'm going to take test over chapter 17 in the PRC testing center, and then I'm going to take the quiz for chapter 24 online. No, you need to be kind of in one boat or the other. So I allow you to start in one and then go to the other, but you can't constantly flip back and forth. Again, that's something we'll talk about if you decide to use that option. So if you happen to be a student who has if you're an Access Office student and you are entitled to additional time to take tests and quizzes, then you'll be taking it through the PRC Testing Center. We still do need to talk, so please feel free to schedule that. I want you to be successful. I certainly respect your desire to be successful in the class, and I want to meet your academic needs. So feel free to reach out to me whether you're an Access student or not for this option. Okay. So again, these 3 things are actually these 4 things are the top. Oops, sorry. Here we go. This is one. That's a top 10, and then these are top 10s. Keep that in mind, that the top 10 is what we're going to be focusing on. The midtermers with 20%, it covers all of the material up into the midterm. And then the final exam is cumulative. It covers everything we've covered in the course. So it will cover some of the material that's in the midterm. It will also obviously focus on material later on. The way my exams are is they are questions, a combination of questions that I've drafted and questions I've collected from various and sundry other faculty members and other resources over the time. I make sure before I include a test that it is covered either in my lecture or in the textbook. And so you can be confident that that material that you need to answer that question accurately is included. But it may be in either the textbook or the videos that I provide. No 2 versions of tests will be the same. So if Mohammed takes the test, his question 4 won't be the same as the question 4 on Sasha's versions of the test. What I do is I've programmed Canvas to pull a random number of questions from this chapter, a certain number of questions from this chapter, a certain number of questions from that chapter. But they're very lengthy question banks, and so the odds of you having exactly the same questions as somebody else are very, very close to 0. So it's not really helpful to ask someone. You can ask somebody, was it a hard test or something like that, but asking them, well, tell me, what were the chapter 2 questions? I mean, they can tell you if they remember, but that's unlikely to be the same questions that you have. So that's a test integrity issue to keep the possibility of a late test taker being in a more advantageous position than the early test taker. So here are a list of the things that you want to focus on as the semester progresses. Again, the first thing you're going to want to do is read the textbook and do those Learn Smart activities. Then watch the video lectures. We'll see as you're doing the video lectures, let me pause here and flip on over to so we'll go back here to announcements. you'll see, we'll say, do chapter 24. The first thing you do is that Learn Smart, then you look at your lectures. This one actually has 4 lectures. I have a study guide for these 4 lectures. I don't have, by the way, a study guide for tests, but each chapter has a study guide that you will be participating in completing. And so people sometimes ask, well, where's the study guide for the midterm? You actually have several of these. Be sure to take those. Many times students like to print them, but you certainly don't have to. Just fill in the blanks. Here is a study guide for this particular chapter. And what the study guide is all of the information that is in the PowerPoint. But, well, not all the information. It's the format of the PowerPoint, but what I've done is I've taken keywords and omitted them. But when you actually watch the lecture, that word will be on the PowerPoint slide. So let me show you. Let's see. So we're interested in, oops, sorry, here we go. We're interested in, you can see the chapter 24, it says employment at will. An employee who is not employed under a contract for set duration or a collective bargaining agreement is a blank apostrophe, blank dash blank employee. So you'll need to fill in those 2 words. Well, how will you find that out? There's several different ways you can find those blanks. One way would be to look in the textbook. Honestly, it's pretty easy to find most of the blanks in the textbook. But the way that I kind of intend for you to do it is to watch the lecture and have these blanks going. So let's just flip over here and watch the lecture for just a second. So we're in chapter 24. We're going to compare it to the study guide. We're going to watch this first lecture. I'm going to start it. Here we go. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I guess I shouldn't have. We can actually look right. Obviously, you're not going to jump around like this when you're doing the class. Here we go. Any employee who is not employed under a contract for a set duration or a collective bargaining agreement is an at-will employee. So we're going to write at-will in that blank. Okay, so while we're listening to the lecture, and you're not going to jump around like I did, you're going to write at in this blank and will at this blank. You'll see on the slide that it's underlined. So that's your little help to find the information. So you can see there's going to be another blank for, you'll add the word quit. Let's just go over here to the form. You can see this fact means the employee may quit. So you're going to write the word quit here. And you'll be able to fill in this whole document with all those blanks. The reason that I present it to you is that it requires you to be somewhat involved in paying attention. I've been to lectures before, and as fascinating as I am, and honestly, I'm not under any delusions about my level of fascinatingness, if that's such a word. am aware of the fact that it's easy to doze off when you are participating in this. I am going to end this lecture. Actually, I'm not going to end this lecture yet. I'm going to do a little bit more before we call it blank. So be sure to fill in the blanks here. This gives you a very good outline of the chapter. So as you're preparing for tests, you're going to use this as your go-to to make sure that you've mastered the material. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this slide. So you're going to, again, do the Learn Smart activity, watch the videos, do the fill in the blank study guide as you watch. You're also going to pause at times and take notes. Again, the stories that I tell are oftentimes going to end up being questions. And so you'll want to be sure to fill those in. There will be other videos that are oftentimes assigned. Let's look at that. What are some other videos? You can see wherever it says 0 points on an assignment, that means that there are no points associated with it. So there's nothing for you to do, but it's a video in most cases that you watch. Click on it. We'll just see what it does. Actually, it's not going to let you connect there. Let me find another one. Here, corporate social responsibility. Click on this. Okay. Well, anyway, take my word for it. It's not allowing you to click on it because I'm the, or not allowing me to click on it because I'm the instructor. If you as a student were clicking on it, it would take you into the videos. So let me find maybe one I can make work. Some of these can work. This one. We'll do bananas unpeeled. You'd watch this video. You don't have to do anything directly from it, but you may find that there's a test question on it. If you didn't watch the video, obviously you're probably not going to get the question right. Okay, so you're going to watch the videos, and then of course if you have any questions, you're going to go to the question section. This is also the instructor's pointer section. Let me show you where you find the place. It's under orientation. So this first module, at the very bottom, it says questions, and that's where you'll go about asking any questions that you have. You'll click on this and you'll post your questions, or you'll read what the instructor has posted. Then you're going to participate in the discussion board. Your first substantive post needs to be at least 100 words, and you're going to add the words to the end. And your reply post needs to be at least 40 words. And you do not have to list the word count. Oh, yes, you do need to list, I'm sorry, you do need to list the word count in your second posting. If you don't list your word count, you're going to lose at least 1 point. If you list a word count that isn't accurate, you're going to lose more than 1 point. Let me show you what the discussion boards look like. So let's go down to, we'll go down to chapter 21. So we're going to scroll down. It's under the discussion board, assignments, and quiz. It'll be the first item. You'll click on this. You'll read the discussion board, and then you'll hit reply, and you'll post your reply. There's a reminder here about what your discussion board posts need to look like. You won't be able to see anyone's post until you've made your first post. And then you're going to complete the assignments. Again, there may be more than one, but whether there's one or more than one, together they will add up to 15 points. And you'll also take the chapter quiz. You'll only do these for you only need to do them for 10 of the 16 chapters that we cover. You will find the same information about weekly assignments in this spot. Cheat sheet for the class, what to do each week. This will go through and show you the things you need to do. And again, in red, it has the reminder, do at least 10, do at least 10. Let's talk about exams. We only have 2. This is something that I'm going to survey the class about at the end of the semester. When I offer this course in a face-to-face format, and that's I've done it probably 15 times-ish, I have many more tests because there's just so much vocabulary. It's difficult to learn all these vocabulary words for a single test. And I've gotten feedback in the past from my online course that they would like to have more tests. But there's a tension there because part of the advantage to having an online class is that you don't have to come to campus to take every single test. I mean, that takes a lot of time, and it diminishes the onlineness of the course. And so I have it still at 2 exams, but I'm going to question you at the end of the semester to see if you think that's right or whether we ought to go to more exams. You will take your exams through one of 2 formats. The vast majority of the class will take it through a Collin College testing center. We happen to have a testing center on all 3 of our major campuses, the one in McKinney called the Central Park campus, the one in Frisco called the Preston Ridge campus, and the one in Plano called the Spring Creek campus. What you do is you just go to the testing center in those facilities. You need your college-wide ID. It's a computer-based test, so you don't need a Scantron or a Blue Book or anything like that. You go in, you show your ID, and you take the test. You can take as long as you want or as short as you want. The testing centers on all campuses post their hours on the Collin website. Generally speaking, they have restricted hours on Friday and Saturday, no hours on Sunday. And they won't allow you to start a test during the final hour that they are opened. You're going to want more than an hour anyway to take these tests. These aren't quick tests, and so be sure to budget for that. Again, the only time restriction is if you show up and the center is going to be closing in, say, 70 minutes, then all you have, of course, is 70 minutes to complete the test. That's how the vast majority of the students will take the test. It's proctored, so we don't have to worry about test integrity. But you do have an option, that is to take it through ProctorU. ProctorU is an online proctoring program. You can take the test through the privacy of your own home. There are a couple of reasons why you might not want to, though. One is that your computer needs to be a fairly sophisticated computer, and you do need to have a webcam. And you need to have a reliable internet connection. If you want to explore that option, please let me know, and I will send you information so that you can test your computer to see if it meets the specifications that ProctorU requires. The other reason that sometimes students decide not to use ProctorU is that it is I don't want to say expensive, but there is some cost to you associated with it. And the cost is going to turn on how long you take to take the test. If you complete the test in 10 minutes, it's going to be less expensive than if you take 2 hours. Most students take it in about an hour-ish, but you certainly would want to budget, maybe up to 90 minutes. Pretty rare for a student to take 2 complete hours, but if you have learning difference, you might want 2 hours, and you certainly can take it. But if you use ProctorU, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. Because it's a proctored test, there's no way that you're going to be able to Google answers or ask anyone else or refer to any other tools, and so it's going to be one that has academic integrity associated with it. It's fine if you want to do that, but you need to let me know at least 10 days before the testing window opens. The reason that I have that requirement is that there's a fair amount of setup that both you and I need to do in order to set it up. Almost every semester I'll have a student contact me a couple days before, "Oh, I forgot," or da-da-da-da-da. That's not going to work for that test, but if it's for the midterm, you can go ahead and take the final through ProctorU. You just won't be able to take the midterm through ProctorU. If this is a summer course, I encourage you to get this resolved that first week. If you want to take the test through ProctorU, you need to let me know. I mean, you don't need to let me know, but it's a smart plan to let me know this first week so we can get everything worked out as soon as possible. If it's a longer semester, you might be able to wait a week or 2, but the more you wait, the more likely you are to forget. You'd want to check the syllabus and go ahead and pause me now. Check the syllabus to make sure you're available during that week. If you aren't available during the week that I've scheduled the midterm or the final, there's a couple ways we can work that out. One is you can take it via ProctorU from wherever you're going to be. But you might not be in a place or want to be in a place where you can actually have internet access or that type of thing. And so you can either use ProctorU or you can take the test early. You can take the test outside of the window as long as it's before the window begins. But I'm not going to allow students to take it outside the window after the window ends. The only exception to that would be somebody who, because of very unusual circumstances, couldn't take it at all during the window. Typically, I have a whole week for a window. So I'll maybe have it open on a Thursday and close on a Wednesday, for example. And let's say you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm going to take it on the Tuesday. Well, you developed the flu on Monday, and you're just too sick to take it on Tuesday or Wednesday. Very understandable, you're too sick. But when you present me the doctor's note that you were diagnosed on Monday with the flu, what I'm going to say is, yeah, but you could have taken it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, and you didn't. And so, no, I'm not going to let you have a makeup because you chose not to use your window smartly. So my suggestion is to take the test early. Take it on the first or second day. That way, if you develop the flu, you don't have to worry about it. Now, of course, if you are diagnosed with, I don't know, some pneumonia, say, and you're in the hospital for the entire period of time, or you don't have to be in the hospital, but your doctor restricts you for the entire period of time, then I will let you have makeup. But if you're not going to have it covered for the entire period of time, even if you have it covered for part of the time, there won't be any makeup offered. And as you can see, missing a midterm or missing a final is pretty devastating to one's grade. Again, the same thing works with the final examination. Same policies are in effect. We've already talked about class participation. This is a typo here, I apologize. This should be 5% of your grade. So make a note in your notes for this lecture that it's 5%, not 10%. You'll also find, by the way, this breakdown of grades on slide 22, you'll find this in the syllabus, and that's a much more convenient place to see this formula than to flip through this. Okay, so again, you're going to have the deadline for posting at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday. And it closes, it goes away. You won't be able to post anything after that time. But again, you're not going to want to wait until a Sunday to make your posts. You certainly can't make your substantive post on Sunday, and I would recommend you not making your reply post on Sunday. Go ahead and get that out of the way so you don't have to worry about having technical problems or Canvas going down. Again, I'm not going to give you additional time to do it. If Canvas was available on Friday and you chose not to use it on that date, the fact that you waited and couldn't use it, that's a choice that you made. So go ahead and do it earlier so you don't miss out on an opportunity. Of course, you only need to have 10 discussion board grades, and so there will be some discussion board grades that you can just drop. So if for some reason you do have technical difficulties or you accidentally waited until Sunday, no worries, just don't participate in that discussion board. Excuse me. Here we go. I'm just flipping through this to see if there's anything else. So here's some frequently answered questions. We don't ever meet. Everything is by Canvas. Of course, you can come to my office hours. And as I've pointed out before, the online lectures are available for you. This is a wonderful course to take if you are having things going on in your life because you can work ahead. And so don't worry about that. Just be sure you're going to be kind of more deliberate about how you're planning things. But absolutely, you can do these things early when you are going to find yourself out of pocket for a particular time. And again, I'm happy to make midterms and finals available to you early if that's what is necessary for you to take those tests. You don't need a computer for this class. You, by the fact that you're a student here, have access to the computer labs that are on all major campuses. The only thing you need to access the computer lab is your student ID. And so just bring that. If you're going to listen to lecture, also bring some headphones or earbuds so you can listen. That's going to give you a very reliable internet connection. Stable computers, that's a smart way to do it, even if you have a good computer. So don't worry about not having the technology. For the most part, things are auto-graded in this course, but if you want to look at your performance and talk about why you missed a particular question on an assignment or a quiz or a test, I am delighted to meet with you and we can go through each one of the questions, see what you missed, see what the correct answer is. Excuse me, and give you the correct answer. That can be useful for test preparation. Here are some things to keep in mind as you're preparing. Again, orientation module, you're already doing a great job by watching this video. Follow directions, ask questions. This is so helpful. You probably have questions, so ask them. Calendar all your due dates. We'll talk about that in a second. Be active on the discussion board. Again, you only have to do 10. Contact me when you have questions. Watch the lecture. Boy, this is super important. Here's a cheat sheet of things to think about if you're having a technical problem. These are some issues about browsers and things like that. You might want to print up this particular slide because unfortunately when you have technical problems you can't get to this type of information. So remember slide 38 and the information on here. I know that we'll have a great semester. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. And so this is the PowerPoint. I want to show just a few other resources before I say goodbye. The next resource I'm going to show you is the syllabus. Again, this is really the Bible for the course. Here we go. Blow this up. The first page, not that useful. You will get the drop date, withdrawal date. I'm always put that on the syllabus, and so you'll know the date that you need if you decide you don't want to continue this course, and I certainly hope that doesn't happen, but this is the last date that you can get out of the course without getting a dean to agree to this. The next information that's probably quite relevant to you is my office hours. I have office hours Tuesday night. I teach a class on Tuesday evenings this semester. The hours are going to vary, so I'm going to talk about this. So this is actually meeting in a classroom. You certainly won't be having a class. You might be, I guess you could be having class on another campus. And so it might be difficult to get here, but if you're on the PRC campus, just come on over on Tuesday nights. If you don't have a class then, feel free to head on over around 10:10, and I'll be glad to talk with you. If you tell me in advance, I'll have I'll have the textbook ready. We can spend more time. Of course, much of the stuff for the course is online, so if you haven't reached out to me beforehand, we most likely can muddle through. Then I also have hours via Zoom. How do you participate in Zoom? Zoom is a virtual office application. If you are connecting from a PC, Android, or an iPhone, you just click on this thing here. Let me just, here. Here we go. So I'm going to activate this. You click on this, and look, it opens up a new one. I'm not going to do that. But that's how you get into it. It's super easy. to get into the Zoom. But if you have any difficulties getting into Zoom, you can email me and I'll be happy to assist you. If you're from an iPhone, there's another method of participating. You can also do it from a telephone. So these are just some tools if you want to participate in Zoom hours. Obviously, if these office hours don't work for you, just send me an email. We'll figure out a time that does. This is my email. We've already talked about that. Please don't send it through the Canvas messaging tool. Here's my telephone number, but you know what? I'm almost never going to be in my office. If I'm not in class, I'm probably going to be working from home. I've got kids that I try to keep an eye on over the course of the summer, and if it's during the semester, I'm picking up kids and running errands and doing all kinds of stuff. And so I'm working a lot, but I'm not working a lot from my office unless I'm in my office hours. So I don't suggest that you call me unless I am actually in my office hours in my office. Better to send me an email and we can schedule a time to talk. This is the information about the textbook. We've already talked about that. How you choose to organize your notes is your own decision. Obviously, whenever we're meeting in a lecture, you're going to be taking careful notes. You're going to be pausing to write down what you need. I don't need to tell you that. Here we go. I'm going to make those go away. And then here is that equation that I talked about before. This is the easy way to find the grades. So this is that content is the same information. And if you score less than an 89, and again, there's no reason for you to score less than 100, you'll get a 0 for the quiz. So do be sure. It's only 1% of your grade, but why would you give up a percentage that you can easily earn? This is the same information about discussion that we already covered, so I'm not going to go over that again. It's the 10 highest. Here are some netiquette pointers. You already know this stuff, so I'm not going to bore you with it. Here's about the Learn Smart activities. Again, it's that 10 highest. Here's the assignment. It's the 10 highest for modules. And it's the same for the quizzes, the 10. You have 10 minutes to take the quizzes, and it's the 10 highest quizzes. There's information about the midterm and the final exam. There's information about ProctorU right here. If you're interested in it, please read this and take the steps. Here's some pointers about email etiquette and how to approach emails, and when email is a good resource to use. And then this is the nitty-gritty stuff. When we'll be covering each semester, each chapter, when we'll be having the midterm and other tests. So this sets it up. Now, here's the exciting part. Although the midterm, the final examination, the discussion boards have hard and fast due dates at very specific times. Everything else, so the assignments, the Learn Smart, and the quizzes. Just go over here, pull this up. So, oops, wrong one. Go back to the, so. These three things, they are all due the Monday before the final exam. So even though we're going to finish chapter 1 in terms of our calendar this first week, you can wait until the final week to do the assignments and the Learn Smart and the quiz. Do I recommend that? No, that would be foolish. Smart students do work consistently and steadily over the course of the semester, but technically the due date is August 5th for the Learn Smart for Chapter 1. And it's also August 5th for the assignment. It's also August 5th for the quiz. And you'll see for Chapter 2, Learn Smart, it's August 5th. Because that's when the semester is ending. And it's also August 5th for Chapter 2 assignment. It's August 5th for the Chapter 2 quiz. You have to do the discussion boards every week. But the chapter things, the chapter specific thing, everything else is chapter specific. You can wait till the end. It's not a good idea at all to wait till the end. The reason that I'm doing this is that I know people might be taking some time off for vacations and things, or they might find a particular, they might find it easier to do it on Mondays versus Sundays or Saturdays or whatever. I'm trying to give flexibility, but I am by no means encouraging people to wait to the end. I'm telling you this now, so please, what I'm about to say, please write this down in your notes and remember it. The last week, I'm not going to be sitting around saying, oh yeah, I'd love to talk about Chapter 3. Or wow, you're having technical difficulties, let's see what I can do to help out. I'm focusing in the last week on Chapter 13 and 14. That's what I'm going to be talking about with you. If you're saying, but I'm doing the quiz from Chapter 1 and I don't understand something, I'm going to say, well, gosh, we did that a long time ago. Let's talk about 13 or 14. I'm not in that final week going to be focused on chapters in the past. Now, if you come to me 1 week or 2 weeks after we completed a particular chapter and you want to talk about it and we're not in that final week, I'm glad to talk about it. But I don't want you to think, gosh, this setup with everything being due August 5th, then that means that I ought to spend, the last week of the semester or the next to last week of the semester doing all of the work. I mean, you can do that and everything might work out okay for you, but I'm going to submit to you that that is a foolish plan, and I'm not going to be complicit in you making plans that don't make sense. Talking about the midterm, this is kind of weird because this is the summer, and so we don't have as much flexibility because everything is kind of condensed. So the week of July 16th is the week that I have planned the midterm. Again, you can take it early if you let me know. We're actually going to do Chapter 9 and 10 before the midterm, at least in terms of our schedule. But the midterm doesn't include Chapters 9 and 10. It includes everything up to the contract section. And then 9 is the chapter that begins contract. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All of that is going to be on the final examination, along with all the topics that we've already covered. So note this so you're not confused. Yes, on the syllabus we'll have done 9 and 10, but for the midterm, they won't be on it. Okay, so that's the syllabus. Let me show you some other resources. Let me go back to our start here. Here's a welcome letter. It kind of gives you an introduction to the course. Here's that cheat sheet, what to do each week. Refer to this when you get confused. Here's an FAQ that I think can be helpful. I'm not going to go over right now because I've already done this. Here's that orientation quiz. Here's information about ProctorU. This is some minimum technology requirements for the course. Most likely you have those satisfied, but if you're having technical difficulties, this could be useful. If you're having difficulty doing something on the online course, here's some resources to help you troubleshoot and reach out to the right people. I do have the Cougar mail forwarding information right here. This is stuff I have to include. Don't worry about it too much. Sometimes the reason why Canvas doesn't work right is that your internet browser cache is not clear. And so this is a way to clear it. So if you're having difficulties with Canvas, check this one out. This is that questions instructor pointers that we talked about before. This is information about how to calculate your grade. I invite you to do it if you want to, but I find that many students get stressed when they talk about calculating their own grades. So if you aren't a numbers person, just do the best you can in the course. I'll do the grades. It's not your job to do the grades. I'm not going to give you your projected grade through internet, through the email or whatever. I'm not supposed to send grades through email messages, and so I'm not going to do it. I'm happy to meet with you and we can go through scenarios. But the bottom line is, this is the video to watch so you can see how to calculate them if you want to. That document that I talked about before, that I kind of walked you through here, it's available. So this is a handy resource to calculating your assignment grade. You can also use the same resource for doing your quiz grade and your Learn Smart grade. You won't need this section because there's only one quiz per chapter, so you can just use this column, and there's only one Learn Smart per chapter, so you can use this column. This is how to get your computer connected. I'll talk about this. Actually, let's do it right now. So you click on this. When you're ready, when you have your access password ready, because you've bought the textbook, and in the back cover there's the access password. Now you're ready to go ahead and enter that in here. And I have some links that show you the information. This is some screenshots. Let me just show you what it looks like. See screenshots so you can see how to hit what button. Then this is information about the course. It gives you different links and things like that to make sure you're linking to the right course. One thing that sometimes comes up is that there is actually two ways you can access Connect. You can do it through Canvas, and that's the right way, the way you should always do it, or you can go into Connect directly through McGraw-Hill. If you enter through McGraw-Hill, Canvas will give you a grade, but the grade won't McGraw-Hill will give you a grade, but that grade won't transfer to Canvas. You will show as having a 0 in Canvas. If you do that, you can send me an email, and I will be glad to look in to McGraw-Hill, see the grade that you got. Let's say you got let's say it's assignment 12. But instead of doing it, entering Connect through Canvas, you go to Connect directly, you got a 14 out of 15, well, Canvas will show that you have a 0. I will have to manually go to Connect, pull up your name, see what grade you got, then go to Canvas and manually enter the grade. Obviously, it's not a huge issue, but it's not my favorite thing to do. So please try not to do that. I understand sometimes people forget or they flake out and do it, but I would appreciate it if you don't. And if you happen to find yourself in that situation, maybe, for example, Canvas is down, and so that's the only way you can do it, let me know what chapters they are, what particular assignments they were. Don't say, hey, I did some assignments through McGraw-Hill Connect and didn't do it through Canvas. Tell me specifically which ones. Give me the exact name, the exact chapter, whether it was a quiz or whatever, so I can make sure that I have all that data. So I can give you all the grades that you've earned. And again, try not to do it that way so I don't have to enter any extra grades. So let's just do a little refresher on all the things we have. So the first part of each module, substantive module, is going to be the Learn Smart textbook activity. And then we have the lectures, including my lectures, as well as, lectures, and also that study guide, that fill in the blank that you fill out. You'll also see at the bottom of this section that there is a test preparation guide. What the test preparation guide is varies from chapter to chapter, but let's just look at one so you can see. So this is the one for chapter 1. It involves the vocabulary terms that are in this chapter and the definitions, and so you literally do a choice back and forth. So for law, you find which one of these it is that is the correct answer. And again, you can do this multiple times. And then there's some fill in the blanks, and I guess that makes up that particular assignment. Again, this goes back to the idea that you're testing yourself, you're quizzing yourself, you're refreshing yourself on the material. This is not for a grade. This is your decision whether you want to spend the time to do this. The next section is additional videos that aren't lectures. So this isn't me that you'll be listening to. This is the various, and typically these are very short, 3 to 5 minutes long. And then these are the things that are assignments. You ideally want to do all of this before you get to this. Since we don't have any deadline except for the discussion board, there's really no reason not to do this in order. Obviously, if we had a deadline of things due by 11:59 on a particular night, and it's 10:30, you're probably not going to be able to do all this stuff and then do this. So you'd have to jump ahead. But because we don't have those time constraints, it makes sense to start at the top and go down. That way you're not going to miss anything, and you're going to do them in the order that the instructor intended. Let's go down to the midterm module. Well, actually, let's go down to the test, reviews, and information. You can see we have a section for midterm and we have a section for the final exam. I have a midterm review PowerPoint. This covers only the first half of the topic. So it covers through well, actually, let me pull up here. That particular tool covers chapters 1, 2, 6, 3, and 5. So it's not a complete evaluation of the topic, but it will help you with some of the topics. And then I have Quizlet materials for the midterms. Quizlet is a super cool resource. I highly, highly encourage you to use it really for all of the courses that you take that are similar to this. If I were taking a French course or a Spanish course or a world history course, I would absolutely use Quizlet. Let's just go in and show it in case you haven't dealt with Quizlet before. So I'm going to click on the Quizlet link. Then I'm going to go up here and click on this top. It's going to take me into Quizlet. And here are materials for test 1. It's going to be called test 1 because, again, I've designed this for my face-to-face students. And what you're taking with your midterm is actually test 1 and test 2. We don't have one, unfortunately, we don't have a Quizlet for all of this. This is the constitutional chapter and the criminal law chapter, so we don't have one for chapters 1 and 2. Well, let's just go in here. So let's go into constitutional principles. You can do the flashcards, but my suggestion, what I think is the most helpful, is to do the test. You click on test, you go into options here. Since my tests are multiple choice and true false, and you're not going to have, and so this is probably a good way of doing it here. Here we go. So we're going to create the test, and you go through. So this represents, and in fact, these are virtually the test questions. I mean, there's only so many things you can do with vocabulary terms. So these are very close to what the test questions are going to be. And so you go through here and you answer the questions, and I'm just going to randomly click on some things. And I'm going to check my answers, and it's going to tell me what I got right. Oh, I got these 2 right, but I got that wrong. And it's going to give me the answer. So I review it, see what I missed, and then I'll do better next time. And so you keep on doing this. This helps solidify your knowledge. It's much better to do several of these quizzes than to stare at the textbook or stare at notes. So I highly encourage you to do this. You'll see again that I don't have Quizlets for every single chapter, and that's actually a good thing because that means you can develop your own Quizlets. The action of developing your Quizlet is active learning, and so that's actually a very good thing to have. But you know what? Let me just go to Quizlet. Generally, this is actually a Quizlet. I'm going to search. Kubasek is our author. And guess what? Other people use Kubasek, not just us. Let's see here. Okay, well, I'll just do dynamic is the name of it. So here, maybe we'll get some things here. Okay, Dynamic Business Law, Chapter 1. Dynamic Business Law, Chapter 2. You can see here, I don't know who Jasmine Burney is. She's probably awesome. She hasn't been one of my students, and so I don't know if her list is good or not good. So you have to take these with a grain of salt, but you probably don't even have to find your own. You can see here lots of other people, Falcom from the North, Beach Baby 773, lots of different people you can use their Quizlets. Chapter 8, Dynamic Business Law, you go in here, this person has 21 terms. Do a test with this, and you are going to be in good shape. So, Quizlet, highly awesome. Please consider using. Although there are other tools too. A Quizlet will want to take your money, but there's absolutely no reason that you ought to give it money. Because you can get all the features you need are free. So let me show you any other resources we have. Here's final exam review stuff. So everything on the midterm is also going to be on the final. Then here is final specific stuff. And then here are a variety of cases that we talk about in the course. And some of these links, especially if you're interested in becoming a paralegal or an attorney, can be useful. We probably won't do much with this otherwise. If you're thinking about law school, this can also be a helpful resource. Probably a better idea, though, would be come to see me. I hope that this information has been helpful. It's been a real privilege talking with you. I'm super excited about this semester. Again, come see me when you have questions, and thank you for your attention. I'm looking forward to getting to know you over the course of this semester. Have a great day.